There are a lot of heroes in Marvel Rivals that go completely under the radar. Heroes that everyone underrates but are actually secretly broken. That's why in this video, we're going to break down all 10 of them and give you tips and tricks along the way. Now, special thanks to the sponsor of this video, Factor 75. Now, these days, I'm freaking busy. From coaching, creating content, streaming, managing Samito, or fighting with my 3- and 5-year-old every day, I just don't have enough hours. And really, food is a massive cost or time sink. And that's why Factor 75 has been amazing for me. Being able to eat stress-free, choosing from 35 different options of all different types, and having a meal for whenever I'm hungry. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to wait tons of hours to make my meal or prep it. It's literally 2 minutes in and out, and it's an amazing quality meal. On top of that, not only is it time efficient, but I feel far healthier, and I'm saving tons of money not ordering out all the time. And that's just gonna make me more productive, more focused, more energized, and I'm just gonna get more done. Now you're gonna get 50% off and free shipping on your first Factor box using my link. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code with your phone. And I really cannot recommend this one enough, guys, so I would highly recommend you checking it out down below. And once again, special thanks to Factor 75 for sponsoring this video. Now the first hero is gonna completely surprise you, but hear me out because this character is literally free wins in the right situations, and it's Squirrel Girl. A lot of people disregarded her because last season, her ultimate was insanely bad. Like, probably one of the worst ultimates in the game because it would often hit a little tiny corner or whatever and then fly off to nowhere land. But now, it will bounce and bounce and bounce and typically will bait out a support ultimate or just legitimately kill supports. It's incredibly good as long as you make sure that first bounce is actually going to bounce back into supports. You make sure it doesn't bounce super far away because it's not going to home in on the person that it hits after the first bounce. But yeah, Squirrel Girl is phenomenal, and there's a lot of other reasons why. It's not just her ultimate, it's the fact that she has consistent damage output, consistent pressure output to a really high degree that other DPS just can't do, especially from the neutral position. Because think about a lot of the DPS in the game, they're constantly trying to apply damage, get picks and things like that, but a lot of DPS want to be rather aggressive in order to apply pressure. They want to take aggressive off angles and things like that, and you could do that to an extent on Squirrel Girl, and it's good to do. But characters that get a lot of pressure and value with their team or standing in what we call the neutral, it's really rare. Squirrel Girl just outputs so much damage, pressure, respect. Like, you walk into a choke, especially like on the Tokyo map on attack, you just poke at the front choke for a little bit, and the entire enemy team is backing up. They're backing up or dying. They really have no other choice, and it's not like they can go push you and contest you when you're with your team, so you're just forcing enemies out of these positions or else they die. Not to mention, this character can take rather aggressive angles, and if enemies try to come for you, you have a stun, a jump, and then a reset into another stun, another jump. I think you have outplay potential against any character that wants to come after you, especially if you play in areas that you are favored in. Anything indoor, any place that you play in where you can back up to where it is indoor, no DPS wants to chase you into there. Even tanks don't want to do that, and they're gonna die if they do. The other aspect about Squirrel Girl that I think is underrated is the fact that this is not a Junkrat quote-unquote copy. You don't have giant arcs on your primary. Like, you could be extremely accurate with these primary shots if you're a good projectile player, because they go really fast, allowing you to actually duel like almost any DPS on the roster. It's insane what you can hit with Squirrel Girl's primary, and you can do it from a position that is completely no risk. Not like many other characters that have to push themselves way out of position in order to threaten certain characters. You just don't have to do this on Squirrel Girl. Now, there are two major problems with this character that you need to note. Number one, she does not handle high ground very well. If there's like a Hela on a high ground with no wall behind them, of course, it's going to be really hard for you to be super direct consistently, at least more direct than them. So you really want to navigate the map in a way that allows you to flush them out of positions, and ideally everyone is on the same ground as you or lower than you on the low ground. Now, additionally, on some of the more wide open maps, it's going to be quite a bit harder for you to get value on this character. I think she's a very map specific character, and certain parts of certain maps are going to be good, and other maps that are too wide open are not going to be as good. So while I highly recommend this character on the map she's good in, I wouldn't recommend one-tricking her or playing her only Squirrel Girl, although there are quite a few top 100 players that actually do it, so it is a character that has very high potential. The next up is Loki, a character that I think goes under a lot of people's radars, even though he is one of the highest carry characters in this meta. He is a top 2 Grandmaster support in win rate, winning a giant percentage of the time. And in addition to that, this character slots into the triple support meta so well because he provides a ton in a flexible support role where maybe he doesn't provide as much mass healing as other supports, but he provides so much other bits of value and a lot of outplay potential. So first off, we got to talk about his totem, which is undoubtedly the most powerful non-ultimate ability in the game. I mean, it converts all damage into healing. So whether it's a Hawkeye headshot, an Iron Man ultimate, or pretty much anything, you're going to be able to survive it if you're in the totem. And it's not only the most powerful non-ultimate ability, it's more powerful than a lot of ultimates too. It's literally a defensive ultimate on a stick, and it can keep you alive against almost anything besides something like a Moon Knight ultimate that can destroy your totems as it's doing damage. Now, the thing about it, though, is that you got to make sure to time it appropriately. There's a high skill ceiling to this ability, because if enemies are, like, applying a little bit of pressure and you pop it, they get to, you know, focus on your totems, then focus on you. You didn't really mitigate anything. You want to use it in the moments where enemies are actually investing heavy positioning, so they're really going in at you, or they're all inning you thinking they could kill you, and then you kind of say, no, this is my totem, or using it in response to abilities and even ultimates that you can legitimately deny. You also need to be a fair bit mechanical on Loki. I think that you can contest a lot of DPS, apply pressure from off angles in a way that other supports cannot, because you are incredibly hard to flush out of positions, dive, because you can literally leave positions and also teleport and things like that. So it's really difficult to ever flush you out of a position, and you don't have to just AFK in your backline. You can be a lot more liberal with your positioning, which is important because you can open up the fight and apply pressure in places other supports just can't do like you can. And then, of course, I have to talk about his ultimate, which is theoretically the strongest ultimate in the game because you can be what your team needs in any moment. What some people will say is just always copy a Cloak and Dagger or a Luna Snow ultimate and just always have a defensive ultimate. But the thing is, what ultimates are for is just to win team fights and not necessarily lengthen a team fight. Let me give you an example. You're about to cap a secondary objective on a payload, and now your Storm pops their ultimate, and they use their last defensive support ultimate. Now, you could say, okay, I'll copy a defensive ultimate as well, I'll pop it, and now my team can fight, and not die. But it doesn't close out the fight necessarily. They can slow things down. They can basically just contest a little bit, but not take the fight very aggressively. And then they build up more support ultimates. The fight goes on for another freaking minute, and then you lost, right? But if you identify they don't have a support ultimate, we used ours to bait it out, they don't have it anymore, I'm going to copy the Storm ultimate, and then I'm going to ult in it and have an aggressive ultimate. You win the fight right there. They never get a chance to build another ultimate, and then you cap the objective, and then it doesn't matter. You get to reset and rebuild ultimates. So what this means is there's going to be a lot of moments where you have to make that call. You have to track ultimates. You got to understand the state of the fight. You got to know who's winning and losing a fight. And I think that all these things make Loki a very game sense oriented character that really rewards you for thinking about everything that's happening. Like, if you're really attuned with what's happening on a battlefield, you can always make the right call with Loki, and I think that's extremely strong, and it's one of the many reasons why Loki is extremely strong. And number 3 is Peni Parker, a character that I have actually historically underrated a bit, but my mind has been open. I've been actually studying, researching, looking at top-level Peni Parkers and tracking their win rates, and Peni Parker has an insanely high win rate, one of the highest win rates, a top 5 win rate, even in Grandmaster Plus at 52.86%, which is crazy. There's a lot of things that people don't quite understand about Peni Parker, but you need to see the full picture about why this character isn't just a noob stomper, and it's something that can still be played even at the highest level. Well, for one, Peni can create these traps all over the place, 3-mine traps that if a squishy just walks into them, they just die. And it's super hard to play around them. Like, they could be anywhere, they could be around the corner, they could be on a box, they could be anywhere, and you just don't know where they are. And then in the mid-fight, you know, you're a support and you just randomly die, you're a DPS and you just randomly die. And Peni could do that every single fight. So unless you're constantly on your toes, constantly aware, it's super, super hard. And the Peni can even put it in very creative places. That's one. Another thing is, as you're standing on your webs, which you can stack, you get extremely fast and high shield regen. So that means that you're just super tanky. You're very hard to clear out. Unless someone physically pulls you out, they're not going to clear you out of that position. It's so difficult to remove a Peni from certain areas. And a Peni can basically go to a certain area and just claim it. And if any enemy just walks into that area, they just die, or enemies are just denied that area forever. There's nothing they could do to take it, and that's a super powerful position for their team. In addition to all these things, there's actually a high skill ceiling on this character with your grip that can stun people. This hard form of CC is so insane at shutting down players, ultimates, whatever. Whether it's a Black Panther in your backline, whether it's an Eye of Agamotto, Strange, mid-ult, you could cancel it. There's so many situations where this is a super high skill-based ability that can just get you crazy value, and you can basically shut down a carry. Like, no other character can shut down a top-tier player like Peni can. There's a lot of really insane players. As you climb the ladder, you're going to go up against these crazy Black Panthers, these crazy Magics, these crazy Thors, whatever. You're going to go up against these crazy Hulks, all these crazy things all over the place. You're just going to keep going up against them. You ban some things, there's another broken thing, right? There's always something. There's always someone broken at some character. But Peni is like the great equalizer. Shuts down all these characters and prevents them from getting value, and you can make a really amazing player look like a fraud if you're amazing at Peni Parker, and I gotta give her props. Definitely underrated. And if you want to know more about this character, I would actually highly recommend checking out the Rank 1 Peni Parker Cringe Alarm. He has a guide on this character on his channel. I would really recommend it. It's an insane guide with a lot of insights that no one else has. Cannot recommend it enough. Check it out in the description. The number 4 on this list is actually Magic, a character that has the highest win rate in Grandmaster. You heard me right. The literal highest at 55.72%. This character is phenomenal and has actually picked quite a bit to justify that win rate as well. It's not like a, outlier that's like only picked 1% of the time or whatever. Magic is picked quite a bit, and the people that do pick this character are winning a lot. So why is Magic winning so much, and what is the secret to becoming an insane Magic? So first off, the reason this character is winning so much is because she can just insta-kill things in a world where everything is based on hyper healing and hyper sustain. Magic can basically outplay any isolated 1v1s in the right hands, and she can delete any support in the backline in the right hands without them really having any counterplay. Magic can kind of just constantly apply pressure, and then if you're out of position slightly, if you're alone slightly, if you waste a cooldown, Magic can punish you for all those things. I also think that by far, she's the best melee DPS in this meta, and it's not even close. A lot of other melee DPS, like Black Panther, for instance, Iron Fist, these characters get heavily countered by many things. Whether it's a Namor, whether it's a Bucky, whether it's a Peni Parker, these characters have a lot of trouble, but Magic has the most tools to outplay these things. I'm not saying that she doesn't have trouble with some of these things, she does, but she has more tools than they do to outplay because she has a very quick one-shot. She's not going to fight a character for like an hour like freaking Iron Fist is, and she has 2 ways in order to dodge cooldowns and abilities. But as you'll see is that there's a huge difference between someone that is just like okay at Magic, good at Magic, and like amazing at Magic. This character is really hard to play and really punishing for messing up interactions. So if you want to commit to this character, I want you to commit fully to this character. Learn the combos, learn all the techs, learn the new techs that come out every other day. Practice them again and again and again. Build up that consistency. Try to make sure that your engagements are correct every single time, and evaluate how you engage. What was the pressure sources? Were there things on the battlefield you weren't playing around? This is a character that requires a lot from you to get good at, and I don't think it's a character you should dip your toe in. If you're just trying to find a character to add to your hero pool of like 6 characters, I would not recommend Magic. I think this character needs to be played with 2 or 3 other characters in your role, and that's about it. That's just how difficult this character is to fully grasp and fully get the intuition to play this character at the highest level is. So yeah, that's my recommendation. But number 5 on the list is a support, and we have Invisible Woman, a character that people are still figuring out, but as people are starting to figure it out more and more, they're starting to really see the potential in this character and carry. I think the first notable thing about this character that's so strong is that you can constantly remove and reapply shields all the time. If that doesn't take any damage, it's no cooldown, so you could remove a shield, add, remove a shield, add. If it takes a little bit of damage, the cooldown goes all the way up to potentially 6 seconds, but it depends on how much damage it takes. So it takes a little bit of damage, it'll be 3, a little bit more, it's like 4. So you don't really necessarily need to have it out all the time. but in moments where your DPS are taking a duel or applying pressure or using an ultimate, these are moments where you can shield them and they can be aggressive and win a duel that they wouldn't have won. Your Iron Man constantly is losing the Iron Man duel. Well, now he's winning it because of you. Your Punisher's constantly losing a fight to this Bucky on this off angle. Well, now he's winning it every time because of you. And in addition to that, you can protect your supports from divers. A Black Panther comes onto somebody, you wall them off, you denied the freaking javelin. A Spider-Man uppercuts one of your teammates, you apply it midair and you deny him the combo potential. Not only can you consistently deny enemy plays, but you can consistently enable, worse DPS on your team to win fights they really shouldn't be winning because of you. You're like a mass puppeteer, like an orchestrator of everything that's happening on the battlefield, and that's insane about this character. It's so strong. It does require a lot of you, though. You have to be very precise. You have to be very aware. Like, the more aware you are on this character about who is getting hit by what the enemy is trying to do at all times, and try to really put yourself in the shoes of all the people on your on the battlefield. Like, you could say, oh, my DPS sucks, but you can do things to make your bad DPS better. And that's what's so strong about Invisible Woman, because, you turn a pretty bad DPS into a serviceable one, that's a game you won that you would have lost. Now, also, you have the power to pull people out of position in the neutral. I think this is super strong. While pushing people away can be good in some situations, pulling people, when someone peeks the door frame, they get pulled all the way out of it, or when someone just takes one step forward and they want to take one step back, you make them take 3 steps forward. That's really great because you typically exhaust resources. You could generate kills that way. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've peeked a corner while I'm just jiggling a corner over and over again, thinking I'm safe, and then all of a sudden I'm way out of the door and I'm dead before I can pull back in. Invisible women are really scary like that, and if you get caught by that a couple times, now you're like afraid to peek, and you're afraid because you know the Invisible Woman could punish you, and that's just really scary. Not to mention, Eye of Agamotto is very strong, and there are other ultimates as well that can get pushed away by Invisible Woman, so there's a lot of counterplay potential. Like, you have a very strong defensive ult, but you also have all this counterplay that you can do to enable your team, to shut down enemy team plays. It's really the perfect combination of a character that I think provides everything you could want in this meta. If you're looking for something that provides more mechanical requirements from you than something like Cloak, I highly recommend Invisible Woman. Now, number 6, we have Thor. Thor is my character that I play more than any other tank, and I play him second most. The only character I play more than is Bucky, and Thor is a character that I might start playing even more than that. He was the main character that climbed me to Celestial this season on my main, and I think that this character is phenomenal. There's a lot about Thor that is super strong, and it's kind of hard to break down fully, but let me try. First off, he's super good at taking tanks out of position. There's a lot of tanks that want to just play the front line. They want to just take fights on their own terms. Thor puts a wrench in that, where he gets to take a Strange or take a Magneto, fall from a high ground, and boot them into their team. Like, consistently, when I play Thor and I have like a Strange or a Magneto as my secondary against a Magneto Strange duo, I'm destroying them every single time. I'm constantly taking them out of position. I'm constantly setting up situations where they're uncomfortable, and I can just do that on Thor. In addition to all these things, Thor is like a omnipresent threat where he can pivot from doing damage on the front line to taking space on the high ground to contesting something in his back line. He's everywhere, and a good Thor is feeling like he's everywhere, constantly applying pressure, constantly dealing damage, constantly keeping DPS in check. And that's really the thing. Anyone that's isolated by themselves or whatever, Thor is going to feast on you. He's going to fly up to you. He's going to kill you in a matter of seconds, and it's so difficult to deal with a really good Thor, especially if you don't have crowd control. Now, I go into a lot of detail about how to carry on Thor in my Thor guide on this channel you can check out. A lot of people have been telling me they've been reaching new peaks, new season highs with Thor after watching the guide. So I think it's been helping a lot of people, and I recommend it. But let me talk about where Thor doesn't shine. Where are the situations where I wouldn't recommend Thor? Well, I definitely wouldn't recommend him as a solo tank. He's not good if you are the only tank that is being played, and he's not good if you do not have a reasonable front line. Thor actually doesn't always play the best in a dive. You can certainly play him in a dive. I think he's a bit better as a disruptor than a diver. Something that can keep things in check, apply pressure on the front line when he needs to, and do all kinds of different things. Not something that is necessarily jumping on people non-stop, unless you have really, really good communication. So I think he works best when you have a really solid Mag or Strange, which of course, some games you're just not going to have. I wouldn't really ever recommend solo carrying on Thor or solo tanking on Thor. It's one of the worst worst experiences ever. And also playing with other tanks that can't frontline that well, like a Peni as an example, I wouldn't recommend that either. Now, number 7 on this list, we have Moon Knight, a character that is insane in this meta, but not in every situation, and it's important to understand the difference. So first off, we do talk about the Groot combo, which is like the most clear-cut combo on this list that I think is just very consistent, can kill through support ultimates reasonably. Like, it doesn't kill through Cloak if she stacks it, but in a world where Groot hits his ult first, she's not gonna have the opportunity to, so it just doesn't really matter. But where this character really thrives right now is against triple support. People are just kind of swapping to triple support randomly when they're losing games, and I don't even think triple support is the best composition to run, but it is one where if you don't respect it, don't counter it, or are constantly playing things into it that it counters, you're gonna lose. Luckily for you, Moon Knight is not only easy to pick up because he's not very mechanical, he hard counters triple support. Namor really likes to constantly be left alone in a position where he gets to trade damage and resources. So triple support oftentimes just wants to trade resources. They're like, oh, we'll take the damage, we'll heal it up. We'll do some damage to you, you'll heal it up. Like, they want the fight to go slow, because the slower the fights go, they get to get a lot of value out of this ult chain that they just win fights off of because it just lasts so long. Moon Knight wants to do that too, and he has the Great Decider in that, which is his ultimate, that just doesn't care about support ultimates and just kills in the neutral. He'll build an ultimate faster than almost every support, and then even if they pop support ults, he'll kill. So this is insanely strong, and something that I think supports don't really have a great answer to, because that's the thing. Moon Knight is actually weak to DPS. That's the reason why Moon Knights struggle and a lot of Moon Knights can't climb, is because in a world where you're up against 3 or even 4 DPS, Moon Knight is actively bad. Like, he's a character that doesn't want to fight because he doesn't have a lot of tools to fight. If he gets the jump on you, if he gets to set the terms, or if he gets to be left alone, Moon Knight is a hard carry. But if he is constantly a Psylocke chasing him around at 24/7, he's gonna eventually just die. He doesn't have the tools to win that duel, and that is why this triple support composition is so weak to him, because he loves to play just that dirtily slow trade of resources. It favors him, and there's less characters or no characters on the enemy team that can come and target him or deal with him. This is why Moon Knight is so good at just winning against triple support, and especially if they're triple support 2 tank, he's just like actually unbeatable triple S tier DPS in that situation. And he's not that mechanical, so he's a DPS that I think everyone should just learn. If you don't want to play this triple support game, if you want to stop losing to this triple support nonsense, pick up Moon Knight, learn how to play him relatively well. Like, it doesn't take that long, but learn it, and destroy these guys over and over again. He's so freaking good, and I think even outside of that, with the Groot combo, he's amazing in general. So yeah, highly recommend Moon Knight. Now, number 8 on this list is one you might not expect, but it's Mantis. And I know that Mantis was undoubtedly like the best character last season, or like a top 3, but now all of a sudden people aren't picking up Mantis anymore. In fact, people are saying that Mantis is bad, saying that you shouldn't play Mantis, or they're saying, oh, you can't survive all these ultimates with Mantis ult, so her ult is bad. And I think that that's just crazy. Not only does this character have one of the highest win rates in the entire game right now, but Mantis is not that much weaker than she was just last season. The mobility change doesn't change her a tier, and to just all of a sudden think this character is trash, just completely ignoring how strong she was, is just ridiculous to me. It's like this character has become underrated, which is just wild. And there's reasons for that. Number 1, this character provides more offensive capability than almost every other support, maybe with the exception of Adam Warlock, but really the amount of damage you're outputting, the amount of damage you're amplifying, it's a lot. It's a ton of pressure all the time, a crazy amount of pressure. And that's typically going to end up in picks, in snowball games. There's a lot of games you're going to play on Mantis and just win, just not based on ultimates. You're just going to win the neutral fight. You're just going to get value, get kills, get picks, and no one's even going to have a chance to ultimate. Have you ever gotten rolled, like in a game where it wasn't a battle that was slow and methodical and trading of ultimates? It was just, hey, you lost. Mantis creates more of those than any other support because she just provides so much damage-based pressure. In addition to that, her crowd control, her sleep, is still very easy to hit, very reliable, very strong, will shut down divers. this is a really, really good thing. And I think most importantly of all is the ultimate. And this is the biggest reason why people are sleeping on Mantis, is because this ultimate isn't defensive enough for them. In a world where Cloak and Dagger has 4 swipes and Luna Snow ultimate lasts 12 seconds and she's basically immortal, why is Mantis ult that is only 8 seconds? Why even use that? Use a different ultimate, right? That's the argument. But the reason that this is the case is that Mantis ultimate is not purely offensive or defensive. It's both. It's a hybrid. And a lot of times you need to use this ultimate aggressively, especially when your opponents are on a slight back foot. You recognize that they are low on HP. They're kind of trying to pull back. They're trying to back away. You press this ultimate and you win. Remember, we talked about it with Loki. A one-team fight is a one-team fight. It doesn't matter whether your ultimate lasts 8 seconds or 12 seconds, or that you denied freaking 4 enemy ultimates to win the point versus denying 0 or 1. If you win the point, you win the point. And that's the thing that I think has a lot of people kind of super underestimating many of these offensive ultimates over defensive ones. It feels good to never be able to die, but Mantis ult gives you that flexibility to take the initiative when you need to, but also protect you against many ultimates in the game that can shut you down. Not all of them, and it's your job to differentiate between the ones that you can and the ones that you can't, depending on how much pressure is being outputted, how much pressure you're under, what ultimate it is. There's a lot of situations where you should not even pop the ultimate. You should just die with it, to be honest with you. But you need to make that call, and you also need to see, when can I use this to win the point, take the initiative, prevent the enemy from ever grouping up or taking a fight in the first place? This is what you need to ask yourself. And I think Mantis is just super underrated to the point where it's just kind of ridiculous at this point. Now, number 9 on this list, we referenced him a little bit ago, is Groot. Groot is just crazy good, especially when we combo him with a Moon Knight or even a Namor. The combo is so reliable and consistent that you're just gonna get team wipes, and having something that guarantee wins you an objective, very important. Because how many times have you played where it feels like it's always just an ult trade battle? Having something that just wins no matter what and just forces certain fights through, really, really good, and it speaks to fundamentals. I would say that you typically want to be duoed with the people that are playing these combos, because you need to always be on the same page and often wait for each other so that you're perfectly in sync. And I actually think that Groot, a really good Groot, can carry harder than most mags and like almost all Doctor Stranges in this meta, except for one exception, and that's against Wolverine. That character is a nightmare for you as Groot. If you're in a ban rank and you're a Groot main, you gotta ban Wolverine every single time, or you're just not gonna be able to play the game just based on a whim. You don't even know they have a Wolverine player. Doesn't matter. That character will delete your ability to play the game. Every Groot player that plays him at a high level knows this. And in the ranks that there are not bans, right? You have the way to counteract this character, but it requires communication, constant pinging, and positioning yourself in a way that is difficult for a Wolverine to get to you easily. You want him to have to travel through open space a lot further than he would like to, so that it gives your team more time to interact. If he could just drop from the high ground or just wrap around the corner and just instantly grab you, you're throwing. You're just going to die over and over again. There's nothing your teammates can do about it, because you're giving them like 1 second to interact with the character. The harder you make that for the Wolverine, the more likely you're going to be able to succeed. But I also do think that Groot is a character that is a good supplement, where you can play him in some situations, but not all situations. Although, yeah, this character you can carry really hard with in general. But the last character on the list is a character I'm a bit biased about, of course, and it's Bucky. I really do love Bucky in general, and I actually think he's fairly solid in this meta for a couple of reasons. And the first one is, I think this character is one of the strongest DPS you could play that doesn't require synergy. I know that I talk all the time about how synergy is super powerful, super busted, something that you should abuse a lot, but you can't always play for just synergy. You don't always have the synergy available to you. And in a world where, you know, the synergy for Bucky is nice with Rocket, but I would say it's integral at high levels to play a Rocket with the Punisher, versus Bucky gets a lot of value without that synergy. He doesn't need it to be viable. And he's also a character that will never get banned. So, like, Iron Man is a character that either gets banned or needs the synergy to be viable. Namor, ideally, would want to have the synergy, doesn't need it to be viable, but really, really like it. Storm is getting banned all the time. Wolverine's getting banned all the time. A lot of these characters are getting banned, and Bucky's the character that just doesn't get banned, slips through the cracks, always reliable, doesn't need a synergy, so it doesn't really matter what your team is playing. He's also generally good against what I call the nonsense. The things that just always want to jump your team, jump in, roll through. From a Wolverine to a Venom to a Hulk to a Magic, whatever it is, you have the tools to shut these players down. You also are super busted against Loki, being able to reset your ultimate off of his clones, and I would say in general, a lot of Buckies mess up their ultimates, while in some of the lower elos, it's easy for you to just chain off and make this ultimate work all the time. The higher and higher you climb, the more vulnerable you are when you ult, because people are looking to shoot you or hit you with a cooldown, and the harder it is for you to get resets because people are always trying to pocket each other. I would say look to be patient and look to combine it with team pressure. The goal here is to, once again, win a team fight, and it's a lot easier to use this ultimate not as a hero play, but something that is an extension of your team's aggression so they can help you confirm these kills. Also, look out for moments where someone already used their get out of jail ability, you know, like a Namor bubble, for instance, so that they don't have anything they can do to stop you from at least slamming onto them, and so you can at least get one reset and start the chain off. So these are 10 heroes that are extremely underrated, but was there any hero that I missed? Definitely let us know in the comments down below, and definitely smash that like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Thank you so much for coming by. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.